Hi there, my name is Laura, and I'm going to be presenting my community, which is Levittown, Falls Township, Pennsylvania. And I'll get into why I kind of have a slash mark there. Um, I'm also sorry if I talk fast. This is my third time recording, and I'm definitely not realizing how fast 8 to 10 minutes goes by. So the red portion is this is obviously a map of Pennsylvania. The red portion is Bucks County. I live in the southeastern or southwestern part of the county. The little tiny county you see is Philadelphia, so I live like right outside of Philadelphia. This is the highlighted part, if you can see it, with in between the red lines is Levittown. And so just quickly, when I moved to Pennsylvania, it took me a really long time to realize that they have townships, which is something that Connecticut did not have. Um, but so there's the town of Levittown, but Levittown actually belongs to three different townships. I belong to Falls Township. There's also Bristol Township and Middletown Township. And a lot of like public services and stuff and like schools goes by township, which is why I wanted to incorporate both names. I did play along or play with the GIS interactive map that was posted for the project because I had never seen it before and I thought it was kind of interesting. Um, I liked it because they had a lot of things that I guess I didn't know. Um, but then I also thought that it didn't include everything that I thought it would include. Like for instance, where all you see all the yellow squares, those are places of worships. However, um, there are churches on every corner of my community, and sometimes like multiple churches on like long stretches of road. I will say, as far as diversity, one of the downfalls is we are a very white community and a very Christian community. So most of the places of worship I see around here is churches. I see no synagogues in my immediate area. I do see a couple of mosques, but other than that, it's diversity I think is something that this area struggles with. So this is, and you'll see here too that the white population is um, significantly outweighs other races. And the demographic information I just got from U.S. Census, and I included both Falls and Levittown just to, I guess, incorporate both as my community, and then to try to show you the differences, even though it's hard, it's still hard to understand the difference between, I guess, a township and the town. If you live in Pennsylvania and Jersey, I think it's a little bit easier to understand. Um, Here is some housing statistics. So, while you all look over this chart, one of the other, I think, negative parts of my community is the housing, which I know in general there's a housing crisis. Things are significantly inflated from what they were. However, as a case manager, I see so many people struggle with this because it's not just people buying a home at an overpriced rate. It's people getting denied because they don't make enough for rent, or people getting denied when they have a Section 8 voucher because, a lot of um, apartment complexes are not taking it anymore because they're raising the rent above what fair market value is. So people that have been waiting on a voucher or have a voucher and have a deadline can't find a place to live, and their voucher is lost. And then the same thing goes for like HUD senior housing. One of the things that I like is we do have a lot of senior housing um, areas, but there's such a long waiting list for it. And ever since COVID, things really, really stopped for a while. So everything got backed up. And I know that I have clients that got the voucher and they struggled, and some didn't find a house or an apartment and ended up losing their voucher. So I would say that's one of the more negative things about my community is the lack of affordable housing and housing in general. Um, this is just more of the economy part of it. I would think that the most important things to note on this page is down at the bottom. It's what the median household income is for both Falls Township and Levittown. They're not far off from each other. Um, and then the poverty rate, both in Falls Township and Levittown as a whole. And then this is just the last chunk of what the US Census webpage gave me for information about the township. The first column is Falls Township, so they provided information for me about that. It was not available for Levittown. So some of the public and major institutions that I have in my community, um, so I, like I said before, the township um, controls the schools. So in Falls Township, where I live, there are 15 public schools. There's also like a major private school as well. We have a large community library. We have an emergency homeless shelter. We have a couple of big township parks. And we also, in Levittown, each neighborhood has its own park, which I think is really nice. Um, we have a social security office, housing authority, public assistance office. We have 23 food pantries, and we have the United Way that we have in Bucks County that services Levittown is amazing. The United Way here has helped our community in so many different ways. And then we are really close to four major hospitals, and then we're also close to CHOP and St. Christopher's, which is children's hospitals in Philadelphia. Some of the major employers include Amazon. We have two major warehouses. One just opened up down the street from me. And the amount of vans I see going in and out of there is ridiculous. So I would say by far that's probably the biggest employer that we have in the area. Um, I would say public school systems is another large employer because we have um, Falls Township, Bristol Township, and Middletown Township as nearby school districts um, that have to employ so many, you know, different positions within the school system. So I would say that that's a major employer too. We have a lot of Comcast hubs that a lot of people work for. Also, Dow Chemical is one of the more industrial jobs. There's a lot of people that work for them. Levittown historically is a very industrial working class area. So a lot of people work for more or less like manufacturing companies. And then I would say the other large employer is just the township, county, and state employees. So any, public works, courthouses, social service agencies, I would say is another large employer for people in the community. This is a screenshot that I took from Crime Watch right off of the Falls Township Police's website. Um, this is crime overall, so it's not any particular sort of crime, it's just crime overall. Because there was a lot of maps, so I just wanted to give you a general overview. Dark green is your safest areas, and then it's pretty self-explanatory. The more like yellow, orange, red is where more crime occurs. And then just so I can show you on the map. I don't know if my cursor shows up, but if you see where Willowwood is, I live in that embedded dark green area right there. So this is actually an aerial view of Levittown, Pennsylvania. So with the time I have left, I kind of just want to explain it was made by Levittown was made by one man, William Levitt. He did the same thing in Long Island. There's a Levittown, New York in Long Island. And then he did the same thing, created pretty much neighborhoods of houses for working class people. Um, and each neighborhood is a section. For example, I live in Elderberry, and all the streets belong or start with the letter E. And there are dozens of neighborhoods embedded within Levittown. There are 6 types of houses, and everyone lives in that type of house. So all the houses pretty much look the same. However, over time, people have added or manipulated them, so they may not all look the same. Um, but I just think it's so interesting that one man came up with, it was in the 50s, um, you know, people coming back from the war and starting their families, and it's just this huge man-made town. Um, this is a picture of William Levitt. Um, and the thing is, I love the community that I live in, but the diversity is not there. When this town was first built, they did not allow Black families to move in. And it was either the 50s or the 60s when the first black family moved into one of the neighborhood homes. They were met with riots, they were met with physical violence of all sorts. They were met with a petition to say that this family can't live here. And I think that this area somewhat still, not that it's racist, but I think it still holds um, true to some of the underlying issues, I think, with the lack of diversity that I see in this area. So the history of Levittown is surely really an interesting one. Um, and the last thing I'll say too is actually in the article that um, that we're basing our judgments off of as far as if we have a good community or not. The author cites an article about Levittown, and it's right before the summary, and it's about a, I'm gonna say the words wrong, but a heterogeneity and a homogeneity, and that hetero is more diverse, and then the homo version is less diverse. And I forgot what the actual quote is, but I thought it was interesting that the article that it was cited from is more or less about Levittown. Um, so, in conclusion, I know this was very long. It was very much a struggle to keep this under 10 minutes. I apologize. In general, yes, I think that I belong in a great community for what it is. I love the neighborhood that I'm in. I love my neighbors. I'm in a good school district for my daughter. Um, I love a lot of the resources that are available that I know of as a case manager. Um, we have a lot of assistance available to our residents. But like I said, I think where I struggle with the community is the lack of diversity and then lack of housing and affordable housing options. But yes, I think overall, given the resources that are available, the safety that I feel, the happiness that I feel, it's subjective, and I like living in a suburban community. And so, yeah, I think my community is good. Thank you.